What's up, dudes? Max here. Today's kind of a special video because today is the 1-year anniversary for a game that you love hearing about from me, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. We've been through a lot with this game on this channel for the past year, ever since its launch, and even before that. And for you guys that kind of want to get caught up on things, I do recommend a video from Stumblebee, who made a comprehensive backstory behind Marvel Infinite and what led us to where we are. Because this video today, specifically talking about its 1-year anniversary and going forward, I kind of want to focus on the things that Marvel Infinite actually did right. And I know that's going to be really tough to swallow for a lot of people. And even when I think of the things that Marvel Infinite does do right in some ways, I'm immediately reminded of all the huge problems the game has with its roster, with its visuals, with its presentation, and its music and sound. I can't help but balance out the argument even in my head. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to do my best to not think of the horrible negatives that the game has, because even 1 year later, the people that are still sticking with the game actually like it even more than before. And for myself personally, it's still my favorite current day fighting game out there right now, and I can't wait to play it every single time I do. So with that being said, I want to focus this 1 year later video around those things that are really good, because there is a lot of stuff that I think should be preserved from Marvel Infinite for the ongoing of Capcom fighting games, if there even is going to be a future for them at all coming soon. So let's get started and talk about some of my favorite things on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and some of the things I hope they know that they didn't screw up on, even though a lot of the game was really rough. First and foremost, the tagging system. Now, I know a lot of you guys love Ultimate Marvel 3, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I love those games just as much as you guys do. Just the process of figuring out your team's composition, understanding what characters can do between the shell of like 2 assists to a point character to final characters to using everything of that sort of team 3v3 composition is extremely fun. But for the most part, a lot of the same things happen to those games, and you see the same thing in Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is the latest 3v3 iteration. A lot of them sort of boil down to team shells, where you have to have an assist here or this character there to sort of balance out every team, meaning you see a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. Ultimate Marvel 3 is absolutely the case with this, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So for the most part, I like Infinite because it tried to do something different with the tagging system to sort of avoid that. By allowing everyone to tag all the time, we thought this was going to be really annoying. Some people actually do find it annoying. Even a year later, I still find this game to be ridiculously fun. I feel like I'm constantly playing Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite even till this day, even watching high-level competition. It seems that the players are constantly engaged, and that's the way the system was sort of designed around this tag everything and do everything mechanic. It feels like people are still finding crazy and creative ways to open people up through the most cheapest means necessary, and that was one thing I was worried was going to be removed from Marvel vs. Capcom, was that overall element of discovery and cheapness. And oh, it is not devoid in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite at all. This game can be very cheap, and even some of the most crazy setups are still being found to this day. And that opens up the game's roster, albeit a really rough one. I almost did it again, to finding a whole bunch of crazy stuff these characters can do with each other, even having more synergy than any of the Versus games before, which I still really enjoy. This even can be shown in other tag games that have recently come out. BlazBlue Cross Tag limits down to a 2v2 mode because there's a lot more the characters can seem to do with each other instead of having to worry about a third character. I still think this overall system could have worked with 3 characters, but for what they did, going back to 2v2, which was the core of the Versus series, it seemed like it was going to be a big nerf, but over time it actually has ended up being incredibly fun, and I still really enjoy it to this day. A couple of other things I want to mention about the game are the direct addressing of big issues that happen in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Things like throw damage. You grab a character in midair through like an option select, you can throw him to the ground, OTG, and essentially do a kill combo off of a throw. They did change that in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and it definitely helps, but they did something really smart. They didn't make throws absolutely awful because of it. They made throws do something similar to another game, which was actually, I believe, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where it removed all the red health, and I thought that was a really good call in Cross Tekken 2013, because in opportunities in this game, and even other 2v2 games, you get characters in the back that are recovering a whole bunch of health, and you need to get rid of that, and sometimes in NPCI, it's better just to throw them at the end to get rid of the red health. A really good idea, and I still haven't even really seen it explored too much in NPCI, because people still are going for mix-ups after their resets instead of trying to go for throws. So either way, I think it's still a really good way of implementing the throw system instead of watching your character die after being tossed to the ground. And speaking of watching your character die, another huge complaint that was for Marvel 3, not as much the previous Marvel vs. Capcom games. Of course, some of them had infinites. Of course, some of the previous games had infinites in the corners almost for every single character. But for a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, that game was mostly reset heavy. So even if you had characters like Magneto that did have infinite styled moves, they can only go so high up in the combo counter, and you would eventually have to reset the opponent. And that's very similar in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite as well. You have these looping moves that sort of go so long, and you try to maximize the damage as much as possible to put yourself into a situation to eventually get your reset in. But the best part is that they added a tag counter system, and at the cost of 2 bars, you can sort of do a combo breaker. And the most wonderful thing about this is that it's not the usual Mega Crash or Combo Breaker from Killer Instinct or regular Combo Breaker from like a game Mortal Kombat-wise or NetherRealm. This thing allows you to keep playing the game, and it does have counters. You can still do things around it by tagging in and reversing, by sort of stuffing their sort of tag counter. I love that. I think this mechanic is really well thought through. I don't think it's perfect by any means, like a lot of MVCI. The gameplay holds up very well, but it's not perfect and could have used more touching up. But right now, I think the tag counter system is very fun, because you get the option of doing more damage with your supers or reserving that for the sake of keeping your characters alive through these tag counters. It makes it so that the game is constantly being played on both ends, instead of watching your characters die, which was a big problem in UMVC 3, as we said. And then last but not least, one thing that usually doesn't get commended very much is the game's online modes. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is one of the few fighting games that's come out over the past few years where the online just worked. Like, even from launch, it was pretty damn good. The lobbies always seemed to work, the spectating always seemed to work. There was some maintenances here and there that did fix some stuff, but for the most part, this is the best performing first-party Capcom online fighting game. Better than Street Fighter V, better than Cross Tekken, Ultimate Marvel 3, Street Fighter 4. This is seriously their best effort. I don't think that should be ignored. I don't think the tag counter system, the tag anytime system, a lot of the stuff they learned from Marvel 3 that they did fix in Infinite should be ignored, and that's kind of the whole focus of this video. That stuff was really good, and actually is the reason why people are still celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Marvel Infinite. I'm seeing constant Twitter messages and posts on all these different social media that people are sort of like, it's the game that didn't get the attention it deserves, and that's absolutely true. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, in the end, is a product that not many people wanted, but an absolutely great fighting game at its core, and that's why people are still playing it to this day. That's why people are still upset that it never got the attention it deserved, and it pretty much is the reason why my feelings are the way they are and still remain from April of this year, with the fact that Marvel or Capcom didn't choose to update us or update the game or give us the things we wanted. I think there's a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom fans out there that were burned by this, myself especially included, and they have the absolute right to be. But that doesn't mean they should have stopped. That doesn't mean that the game didn't deserve updates to make it the thing that everyone was waiting for, because I presumably think, even though this game sold a lot more than I thought it did at 1.1 million units, that's more than enough than any other fighting game usually sells. That's a mid-level fighting game or a low-level fighting game. They would kill for sales like that and still support the game. So it is what it is. It's an amazing fighting game at its core with a huge amount of problems as a product in a whole, but it's not going to stop me from playing the game, like I said before, and it's not going to stop me from celebrating the game's 1-year anniversary and talking about the things I love about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and what keeps me coming back to play it every single opportunity I get. That's all I got, guys. Like I said, check out that video that I did link through earlier. It's a wonderful explanation of what the hell happened to this game, the PR kind of nightmare that was leading up to its launch, and why people still continue to play it to this day, including myself. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for watching. I'll be back with more updates and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite footage and matches as soon as possible. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.